Well, after you've taken some deep breaths and you've relaxed a bit, soon you'll find that the nerves haven't disappeared. If anything, they'll start to crawl their way back until they overwhelm you again. Unless, of course, you use this next tool. Remember Ron, the experienced Toastmaster from the city? If you listened closely, you would have heard that Ron called it nervous energy. Nervous energy. So in anticipation, our bodies respond by giving us this extra energy. So in a way, getting nervous could be considered a good thing, because we have this extra energy to help us get through the situation. But what usually happens is people will get this extra nervous energy, but they won't know what to do with it. Ever heard the story of the family that won the lottery? Well, they did what most people would do. They quit their jobs, they went out and bought a new house, bought a new car, spent the rest on luxuries they didn't really need, and guess what happened? They ran out of money, had to sell the house, sell the car, sell the luxuries, get their old job back, and pretty much end up right where they started. Well, I haven't met this family personally, but whenever I hear about someone winning the lottery, I usually hope they don't spend it all on stuff they don't need. But just like people can get better at spending money, you can get better at using that extra energy when you get nervous. So in this step of the dump process, we're going to consider how to use that extra energy. Previously, we considered some fears. Fear of speaking in front of others. Fear of forgetting what you're going to say. Fear of screwing up. Well, using the extra energy starts by getting into the right mindset. Anthony Robbins, the world-famous success guru, often refers to fear as false evidence that appears real. A few years ago, my friend Dennis had his birthday, but instead of having a party, he wanted to go skydiving. We didn't want to go skydiving, he wanted to go skydiving, but he dragged along 7 of us anyway. You should have seen the fear in our eyes as we reluctantly pulled on our yellow jumpsuits. There was a deathly silence in the back of the skydiving plane as we ascended to altitude for the jump. Message came from the cockpit. It was time to open the back doors. We lined up one by one, ready to make the jump. Time stops as you're standing on the edge of the plane, looking out, knowing well that a possible outcome could be death. And then it happens. We jump. And for a brief moment, it feels like we're getting sucked into a massive vacuum as the wind howls violently past our bodies. And then you feel it. Pure freedom. Words can't explain the full emotions you go through when you go skydiving, but it's nothing short of amazing. Afterwards, everyone was feeling so high, so ecstatic. Not only was the fear overcome, everyone wanted to get back in the plane and do it again. But then we realized, $250 per jump, we'd better call it a day. Maybe come back another time. Once you know that fear is false and that your body getting nervous is there as a way to help you get through the situation, then you can start using that extra energy to your advantage. As you give more presentations, you will develop your own ways that will let you channel that extra nervous energy into enhancing the delivery of your speech. But one thing I like to do before a speech is have some short conversations with audience members. Throughout my studies in school and university, I've sat through a lot of presentations by different speakers on different topics. And whenever I've seen a speaker that I've personally known, or at least shared a short conversation with, I've always felt a distinct feeling of support for them. You know that thought that goes, hey, I know this speaker. I talked to him before the speech. He's a nice guy. Now, as an audience member, it's natural for us to support any speaker we see. Because when we're sitting in the audience, we'd rather be listening to a good speech instead of having our time wasted with a bad speech. So when you're a speaker, the audience is naturally on your side. But talking to an audience before your speech isn't only to get the audience on your side, it's also to help you give a good speech. This is because of one simple thing. Speaking to friends is easier than speaking to strangers. So when you have some short conversations with your audience members, not only will you control your nerves, but it will help you give a good speech. A much better situation than letting the nerves overcome you and starting to panic, don't you think? So now you know the second step of the dump process, to use the extra energy. And one way you can do this is to talk with the audience members before the speech.